Welcome back to Jedi Enclave. I'm Daniel.
I'm Chris.
And we are the hosts of the Jedi Enclave Presents. Now, this is Podcasting Podcast, a weekly live show podcast about Star Wars news, Star Wars comics, Star Wars video games.
And occasionally things that aren't Star Wars at all.
They're usually fantasy / sci-fi / sci-fi fantasy.
Ish, yeah.
Usually things that we just enjoy. Mm-hmm. But this week is all Star Wars, at least for this hour.
There's a fair bit of Star Wars going on.
There were May the 4th was a few days ago, and of course, every Disney usually has a little surprise for everyone.
This time it was Tales of the Empire.
Yeah. It wasn't Tales of the... I think the Lego trailer was the big surprise.
I was certainly surprised by it.
I was expecting to see another Acolyte trailer, which we did. Mm-hmm. I was not expecting it to... Like, I saw that trailer and I was like, oh, man. Okay.
There's a lot going on there.
And then and we'll talk more in depth about these when we get there. But then, like, I saw the Lego, which happened like the day after, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
Revenge of the Fifth. Mm. And I was like,
okay.
All right.
Sure.
Yeah. And then there are a couple of like smaller news things that don't matter too much. If you're here so we release this as like an official podcast release on our YouTube channel every week on Saturdays, I think.
Ish.
This will be up Saturday with the really good audio and everything and the good video. You can skip around in the description of this video for time codes. If you want to skip around and peruse at your own leisure, please be happy to do that. And then thank you to our friend Connor at the Star Wars Hub and Star Wars Veritas. And while you're here, and if you're a good person, make sure you like and subscribe and share us to people you think will appreciate it.
But only if you're a good person.
Yeah. If you're a bad person,
don't do it. We will know.
Yeah. No, YouTube gives me a notification every time someone sees one of our videos, doesn't subscribe, and it's usually the people who are like, go bro. Yeah. It's usually those guys. We're on Discord, by the way. You should go check that out. The link to that is in the description. You can come be a part of the conversation. Mm-hmm. It's mostly just us sharing memes and laughing about shit. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
We were laughing about Helldivers for a while because Sony just about shot their own dick off.
Okay, we're going to talk about that here in a second because you just reminded me. After this, at 7, we are doing the 3rd installment of our Game of Thrones Buzzed Recap series. Mm-hmm. I've given up on trying to do two seasons.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. I really, the problem is, Chris, I talk too much.
Yeah.
That's really just the problem. When I have a little bit of alcohol, I end up talking more.
I am always astonished that we managed to cram an entire season into 2 hours because I'm always worried we're going to go over.
Yeah. We're absolutely getting one season. It's going to be season 3, by the way. Probably the most out of all the Game of Thrones seasons, probably the most notorious, and I think put Game of Thrones on the map as a worldwide phenomenon.
Because a shit ton of people die
all at once in one scene, and
everybody dead.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll have to come here in about an hour. And if you're listening on the podcast, that video will also be a separate release on our YouTube channel. That's a part of the Buzzed Recap playlist. And then Sunday, I presume this week, we didn't get to do Gungans and Dragons last week.
Because it was Orthodox Easter or something.
Oh, right. Yeah. However, I think we plan to do it this week, Sunday at 7. And if you're into role-playing tabletop games, particularly ones with Star Wars flair, that's something you'll probably enjoy.
We left off on a big cliffhanger last time.
Yeah.
Your character might be dead.
Yeah, I think all of us might be dead. And if that's true, we're all going to blame Richard. Motherfucker. Okay, so this Helldivers... Okay, I wouldn't really know about Helldivers too much if one of the guys we play Battlefront with wasn't addicted to it. Mm-hmm. Who, after he started playing it, every time we talk to him, he's like, you should get Helldivers too. And he would find a way to make every conversation go into you should get Helldivers too.
Sure.
And like, I was like,
that's what you do when you're addicted.
I don't have a PlayStation 5. And he's like, it's okay. You can play it on your PC. And I was like, I don't know if my PC can write, knowing that a kid.
No, it absolutely can.
And so I finally ran out of excuses. I got it because like I couldn't even be like, oh, AAA games do like $70. No way, because it's not $70. It's like $40. Yeah. So I checked it out. Cool. It's actually, I have fun playing it, right? And it's nice to be in a game like that where I'm the clueless one, and this is going to sound bad to anyone who plays Battlefront with me, and I'm so sorry. I don't feel like I'm carrying the whole fucking team sometimes. Yeah. Where I have to be carried by someone else. Yeah. And it's a nice little thing. So like I think I played like 3 or 4 hours into it. And then I was unaware of this controversy where I guess Sony, who's responsible for making the game.
They publish it. The studio Arrowhead has a deal with them where Sony distributes, but Arrowhead.
They don't own it. Like okay. No, that may make sense. They do that shit all the time. So they made this new rule that you had to have a PlayStation Network account to play the game, period.
Yes. So this game had a very troubled launch, and they did there were a bunch of software bugs and stuff, and they didn't enforce that requirement at launch because otherwise no one would have been able to play.
Yeah, which when I signed up for it, when I downloaded it and play it, they asked me to make a PlayStation thing. I was like, nah, I don't think I will. Which is funny because actually now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure I have one anyway, but it doesn't matter. And this made the game unavailable pretty much for everyone who didn't live in the United States.
United States and like Western Europe.
Yeah,
I think.
And I didn't even know about it because like when I thought this was a thing where like when someone was like, oh, like what this PlayStation, and I was like, well, I didn't need to do that. So that's not a problem. Yeah, I didn't realize it was a thing that I just developed. And then of course there's no reason to do this, really, other than making it more Sony.
The only reasons to do it are, number one, Sony wanted to inflate their PlayStation Network numbers.
That's exactly the reason.
And number two, they just wanted more data.
Yeah. So they could sell it.
Yes. Yeah. And sell it or use it for their own nefarious ends.
Yeah, probably both. Yeah. So, of course, because after they figured out all the stuff that went wrong with it, a lot of people play that game. Yeah. And it's pretty popular right now.
Way more than the developer actually anticipated. Yeah. Like this is an order of magnitude more popular than anything else they've ever done.
So everyone's like, no, fuck this.
That's really stupid.
Yeah. And then Sony, like, I don't know, like 12 hours later or something.
It took like 4 days of them just being bombarded by negative reviews on Steam.
Right. They got hurt a lot on Steam from what I understand. And then Sony issued one of their JPEG.
Like whoops, didn't realize you actually cared about this.
Right. Yeah, it's like I like how like every time something in the gaming industry goes wrong, there's always that JPEG on Twitter with like a little note who's like I'm sorry, blah blah blah.
We have learned so much from this experience. Right. We hope to do better going forward. They're not going to do any better going forward.
Yeah, first of all, fuck you, Sony, because you know that when they had this conversation about announcing it, they're like, people are going to freak out. The thing that surprised you was how many people freaked out. Because if it had been a little less, or maybe if it hadn't been hit on Steam so hard, they probably would have just ignored it.
Well, it was that. Plus, Steam actually delisted the game in all of the regions where you can't make a PSN account.
I did not know that.
And that probably also forced Sony's hand. Well, all of a sudden, there's a huge swath of the world they're not making money from anymore.
And which means that they were expecting for people to buy that game, them get the money for it, and then them not be able to play it.
Basically, yeah.
Which is the shittiest bullshit ever. So,
by the way, the day after Sony backtracked on this, Microsoft announced that they're closing a whole bunch of their satellite studios, like a bunch of their indie studios.
Oh, really?
Did you hear about that?
I did not know.
Oh, well, it was super shitty because like one of the studios they closed is the guys that made Hi-Fi Rush, which is like one of the most talked about indie games of last year, I believe now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they shut down a whole bunch of stuff and
which they do all the time. Not even like it isn't even an indication necessarily that they're doing financially bad.
Yeah, or that studio in particular was doing bad work because like obviously the Hi-Fi Rush guys made incredible games.
A lot of the time it just helps their bottom line to abuse human beings and rob them of their livelihood.
Yeah, gaming industry sucks. Don't ever work in it.
Let's talk about Star Wars.
Let's talk about Star Wars.
Let's talk about some more cheerful things. So we got May the 4th happened. Some Star Wars stuff happened. One tiny thing we learned, and this isn't huge, but Skeleton Crew from a Collider exclusive, by the way. Skeleton Crew is eyeing a Christmas release.
Yep.
And this looks like this is set in stone and this is what's going to happen.
Makes sense.
So
like Acolyte starts June,
6th,
probably going to run through the end of July or so.
It's 8 episodes.
To the first. So ends mid to late July.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a fair amount of time with no new Star Wars, assuming they don't have anything planned for the fall.
Yeah. The Lego thing's in September.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
But that's a 4-part like special. So also that's not like the same tier as like a live action like series thing, right? But what we know about it, so there's a child cast with Jude Law.
Child cast that's apparently pretty good.
Yeah.
If the interviews are anything to go by, and who the fuck knows.
And they've been really careful to say that like it's not just a kids show.
Mm-hmm. Because they compared it to Stranger Things, which is not by any means a kids show.
Yeah. It is pretty kid friendly. Like it isn't like rated R like Stranger Things, but it like the first season of that show has a great fucking mystery, and you don't have to be a kid to really be into it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's apparently set in 9 ABY, which is right around the time that The Mandalorian starts, which is an interesting time period to have a possibly Jedi doing things.
Yeah. Because if Jude Law actually does have something to do with the Force, like it's the same with The Mandalorian. Eventually Luke is going to find out about it.
Yeah.
Like,
which means that maybe this whole thing happens in a different galaxy.
They might pull in Ahsoka and throw it in a galaxy even further.
Jump in a Purgle.
Yeah.
They'll pull up beside a Purgle and be like, "Hey, are you going over there?" And
hey,
like,
can you give us a ride?
Yeah. But they have to say it in whale.
Like,
All right. So that's what we know about Skeleton Crew. Tell me about this thing.
Okay, so as you might be aware, the original theatrical releases of Star Wars are not available anywhere.
Right.
Like you can't buy them.
By design.
Yes, very much so, because George Lucas, after he made the special editions in the 90s, decided that the original theatrical releases were just sort of a rough draft that he wasn't so happy with anymore.
Which he said a lot, by the way. That he's used that exact on several different occasions. He's been like, look, the original trilogy, there was a lot of ambition, and I had an idea, and I wanted to get it going, but like that's not how I intended the movie to be.
Yeah, like the technology did not exist at the time for him to make the movies he wanted to make.
There was also stuff like the stuff in the original Star Wars that like the cantina scene. Because of the nature of the movie they were making, a lot of stuff just fell through in production. Where like, so for the cantina scene, the guy that they hired to do all of the monster things just didn't show up to work on the day he was supposed to be there. So they had to have some rando come in with like masks that he had laying around and shit, and make like, and Lucas hated it, but
what are you gonna
do? Yeah, it's not like it's like
the guy you're supposed to have didn't show up,
and you're filming this scene. You got like what 2 or 3 days to finish it and shit. Like, what the fuck are you supposed to do? Like George Lucas damn near had a heart attack making that first Star Wars movie. Like they took him to the hospital. The man damn near had a heart attack.
Yep. So over the years, various fans have found or acquired some film reels of that original theatrical cut, and there's
it's like 35 millimeter film.
Yes,
right.
A organization known as Team -1 have been restoring those and making a 4K version of the original theatrical releases. Just because they think it's a thing that should exist and fans should be able to access. And like, it's an important part of history. Like those movies are part of cinematic history.
Yeah. There are a lot of, okay. So first of all, I get that this represents kind of this purist cut of the Star Wars fandom who like the only Star Wars they will accept are the ones they saw that night, which means that they're all whatever, 40 to 80 years old or whatever the fuck. Sorry, that was rude. I didn't mean to imply. But like, there's that part of the fandom who's like, this is the only thing that's truly Star Wars.
Sure.
Now, that's a shit take, and I disagree with that, obviously, on a bunch of different levels. So that's like one issue with this, right? The other issue is that this doesn't belong to them. And so like the film that they have, these were 35 millimeter reels that were, in a lot of cases, were supposed to have been returned.
Yes, or destroyed.
It's stolen property.
Yes.
And they're using it to make these 4K things. And even if they're like, I get like seeing it would be neat. Like seeing the theatrical cuts in 4K, like that shit would be really cool. But like, you don't own that. Like, you're using stolen property and you don't own Star Wars, and no one asked you to do this.
George Lucas made that exact same point when he found out about this. He said, from reports, allegedly, he said, quote, "Grow up. These are my movies, not yours."
Yeah.
Unquote.
Which, by the way, all the Star Wars fans out there who are like, oh, Kathleen Kennedy, George Lucas is going to come back and save everything. This is what he thinks about you, by the way. Like, they really think that George Lucas is this, like, they're like
that he's on their side. And
he does not like Star Wars fans because a lot of them are obnoxious. Yeah. At least the loudest ones are, right?
Also, George Lucas is a giant hippie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you know, but like, he's pretty far left.
Yeah, he's very far left. But like, and I don't think he gets. I think that like, if George Lucas were to run in, like go to a Star Wars convention or something,
which he never would, because why the fuck would he?
I think he's gone to some. I can't. It doesn't matter if someone like diehard Star Wars fan run up and was like, "Oh, but this character and blah 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 and in this Legends book and this happened blah blah blah."
What the fuck are you talking
like,
about?
What do you think of blah 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 blah? He'd be like, "What?" I don't know. They'll have a fucking laser sword and fight probably.
And he would call it a laser sword, by the way.
On a sand planet.
Yeah.
See ya. Like, he doesn't understand. Like, I think he thinks it's a little weird. And I would be one of those people. I get it. But I think I don't think he understands why so many of us are like so attached to the IP and like how invested we are and stuff. Because for him, it was a story that he made, but like
it was not the first story he made.
Yeah.
And I think he didn't intend for it to be the last, but here he is.
So yeah, this whole thing is it would be interesting to me is if there's any kind of legal action.
I have a hard time believing Disney won't
try to stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the other thing is, and I don't know this for sure, but I have a strong feeling that one of the conditions of the sale contract for Star Wars when Lucas sold it to Disney was that the versions of Star Wars he was handing over, the most current ones, were the definitive versions and they weren't allowed to change anything in them.
Including McClunky.
Yeah. Like that was the cherry on top. He's like, finally I can rest.
Yes.
Right?
It's done. I never have to worry about this again. Thank you for the $4 billion. I'll be over here.
So they probably have a legal obligation to stop.
Oh, yes. Intellectual property law is so fucked in America. Like, I assume Disney is aware of this, which means they have to take action.
Yeah. And you would have to even wonder, how would they even release it? Would it be on YouTube? Because that wouldn't be allowed.
I assume it would just be on a torrent site or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure if they can figure out the actual people involved in this, they're going to try to stop it.
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of really exciting things happened last week.
Trailers.
A couple of trailers, both of which I was greatly amused by. One of them I was floored by. But we're going to start with Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy.
If we must.
Oh, shut up. This is... Okay. You know what I love about Lego Star Wars?
It's incredibly goofy.
It is. And this is the perfect medium for mindless fan service.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to do Star Wars that has fan service for fan service sake in there, do it with Lego Star Wars.
We're not talking about like the creepy, gross fan service like Leia's metal bikini or whatever.
No. Well, I don't know. Maybe they'll do that too.
We're talking about like the goofy, like pointing at fan theory. It's like,
remember this?
Remember Darth Jar Jar?
Yeah. So I guess the premise is some shit gets broken in the Star Wars universe, and everything turns upside down. Cats are dogs, TIE fighters are X-wings, and
battle droids are good guys now.
Yeah. And
the Geonosians are the Jedi Order.
And Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord, which is the funniest, goofiest fucking nods to Star Wars fans everywhere. And
because like everyone has heard of this stupid theory that Jar Jar is actually the Sith Lord masterminding everything, because he does this dumb shit that just happens to make things happen.
Do you think that there'll be a reference to bigger Luke?
God, I hope so.
Because that would be really funny.
That's my favorite dumb Star Wars theory.
If the version of Luke Skywalker in this story is like the same Luke Skywalker, and everyone's like, what's different about this? And he's like, I'm like 3 inches taller.
Yeah.
And like, not everyone will get it, but we'll get it. And we'll be like, it's bigger Luke.
Or like a minifig that has like slightly like extra things on his feet.
Yeah.
Make him bigger.
I don't know. This isn't one of those things where I was like, I must see this when it comes out. But like, I'm actually kind of like, I'm excited to the extent that like, I think it'll be a lot of fun to watch. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be.
I think it looks stupid in a funny way.
Yeah, right. And
which is all it needs to be, really.
And I need some of that in my life sometimes. That's going to come out September 13th. The synopsis is: ordinary nerf herder unearths powerful artifact thrust into adventure and twisted version of the galaxy.
Okay. Yeah.
With a list. Right. Ahmed Best is reprising Jar Jar, which is really cool.
Good for him.
And Mark Hamill will be back.
I'm glad Ahmed Best is having sort of this
renaissance.
Yeah, I was gonna say revenge tour, but that's not the right word.
Yeah, I think people are
renaissance tour.
I think people are kind of recognizing the contribution that he's made, and the fact that
he was treated terribly.
Yes, yeah, and also the emotional harm that he suffered, but also that there are things in cinema that would not have existed if it weren't for Ahmed Best and Jar Jar. Mainly like Gollum from the Lord of the Rings. Played by
Andy Serkis.
Yeah,
it's fucking incredible.
All of the Avatar, like that whole thing. That wouldn't have happened if we hadn't had Jar Jar first. Like, that was such a landmark achievement in filmmaking, having an all digital character in a live action movie that honestly,
in what, 2001?
That looked that good.
Jesus.
It was mind blowing.
Yeah.
And the fact that he isn't given credit for that he was like, everyone thinks of Gollum as the original, like huge, like it was a big deal as an animated character. It was Jar Jar Binks. He was the first one. And
everyone overlooks him because they hate him because he's a stupid character.
Yeah, the character isn't really well written. That's what happens when you get George Lucas writing a Star Wars movie. I'm sorry. I love the guy. Yeah. We've said it a million times. He's a creative visionary. He's a shit writer. I think literally any other writer could have written a better part for Jar Jar than George Lucas. But there we go. I'm really happy for him. I guess. Yeah. Okay, let's get a little deeper into this next one.
Okay.
Star Wars Acolyte had its second and presumably
final
trailer.
Because like they only got a little bit of time left.
Yeah, and I think everyone expected it because I think we were like, okay, we'll probably get 2 trailers for this, and then it'll be time to watch it after that. I'm not sure. Let me preface this first of all by saying that there are of course different like fandom menace groups who are taking credit for like downvote bombing the trailer and shit, and that's
no
fine.
One's impressed, by the way.
Yeah. Like, also, like,
you've chosen the absolute dumbest shit to do with your spare time.
Also, like, you think you're really hurting Disney, and it's clear that you don't understand how the YouTube algorithm works. Every interaction you make, whether it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a snide shitty comment or a positive comment, it's all engagement. And it all boosts the video.
It's the algorithm.
Yes, YouTube does not hide videos that get a bunch of downvotes. It puts it to the top of the list because you know what's probably true about a video with a bunch of downvotes?
People feel passionately about it.
And everyone gets crazy and they interact with it. They want that shit at the top. So all you're doing is helping Disney with that shit.
If they actually wanted to hurt Disney, they should just ignore it.
Yeah.
Or like have one person download it and then spread it around so they could watch it without feeding the algorithm.
Yeah, it's just like it. I don't know. Like this group of people are stupid and
It's not very smart.
and you can't reason with them, and that's fine. Now, I'm sure there'll be a couple of them in the comments of this video when it comes out.
God,
and
I hope
that's
so.
fine. Which is funny because your engagement helps us, a much smaller channel, a lot more.
Yeah.
So, so that being said, I think the last I looked, it has like 5 million something views.
Okay.
And I've said I was excited about it before.
Yeah.
I think after this trailer, even though there isn't a ton of extra stuff in it, I'm like, they've only made the more I learn about it, the more I'm like, I will kill everyone I love to see this. Because like it like, and maybe it's because I'm like this really laser pointed demographic.
Mm-hmm.
But when you say the word Star Wars murder mystery with Jedi, I get an instant erection. I'm like, that shit is so up my alley that like you've just described all of my favorite fucking genres in one.
Like, you know what the really crazy shit about this is? Like, we've seen enough Disney trailers to know that like everything we've seen comes in like the first 3 episodes.
Yeah. Right. Which means that there's a bunch that we don't even know about.
There's a bunch of crazy shit we haven't seen.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about it a little bit. Okay. So it opens with a quote by in the transcript. The character's name is Tassie Lawa, and I have no idea who this is. It's none of the people who are in the trailer. And I looked it up, and there isn't any information on them other than this is a character in Star Wars Acolyte. Okay. Who the fuck knows?
Who knows?
Saying last night a Jedi was murdered, and immediately I'm like, please tell me more. Ooh. I would like to know more about this, yes. Please. And there's a shot of like a lightsaber on the floor, and there's a character played by Amanda Stenberg called May. Yep. Who really likes knives. Mm-hmm. That's her fucking thing.
That's her.
She's like walking away from it, right? And through this, you're probably going to hear me say this a few times. There are parts of this that I have to assume are probably very deceptively edited.
Sure.
Because Disney
has a long history of this
with Marvel, with Star Wars, everything. Like they love to string you along on a certain idea, and then have it be a big surprise that's not actually what it was, right? Yeah. So like we're really meant to feel throughout this whole thing that May is like one of the bad guys, and maybe she is, right? But also like it could be it could be the opposite of that too. You're meant to believe that she was the one that killed the Jedi. And again, maybe she did. What I'm saying is I wouldn't be entirely surprised to get to the show and be like, oh, she wasn't the one actually killing the Jedi. There is this like beautiful hero shot of the Jedi Temple, which always gets my gets my heart going because it just kind of brings me back to the prequels and it makes me very happy. And the Jedi Master Saul, who's played by the guy that was in Squid Game, who, by the way, learned English for this role.
Yes.
So he is having like a little training session with all the Padawans, including Jackie Lon, who's played by Logan.
Daphne
Keaton, right? They've got their Boken. Which, by the way, having been a martial artist since I was 6 and having extensive training with Boken and having broken many fingers with them, I can tell you that they're standing way too close to one another. They really need to spread out a little bit because that shit, I lost my front tooth to a Boken. Like that shit, they don't fuck around, right? And I know that you probably actually have.
I've busted a few knuckles.
Yeah, they are very dangerous actually, but they're doing their moves. They're like learning some combat training and shit. And then we get another quote from a character called Kamir, who's played by Manny Jacinto, who's from like The Good Place, right? And he says, the Jedi justify their galactic dominance in the name of peace, but that peace is a lie.
Dun dun dun.
Which
if you know anything about fucking Knights of the Old Republic, there's the Sith Creed, first line of which is peace is a lie, there's only passion.
Right. Which I think is we're gonna get to the big thing at the end in a bit, but
I think this is a fake out, by the way. I think, well, maybe not a fake out, but a case of them like kind of borrowing something from the extended universe that they don't like want the whole piece of, but like it's like Thrawn.
Yeah.
You know, everyone loves Thrawn. Let's pull him in. Let's do something interesting with him.
but also make him different.
Yeah, we're not married to the old stories.
So there's a shot of Master Soul who's walking through what to me appeared to be a prison. So there are people behind red laser walls.
Mm-hmm.
And so in Legends, the Jedi Temple had its own jail, by the way, which is its own fucked up thing in some weird, because they had some extra constitutional. It wasn't necessarily.
It was Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah, right. They had some shit going on there that they should not have been going on, right? So I'm wondering maybe if this is like in the Jedi Temple, or maybe it's somewhere else. Maybe he's doing the detective thing where he runs down an old suspect from another case who might know something about something, right?
Or just, you know, the Hannibal Lecter thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like there's some
nice fava beans.
Oh, gross, but so good. So Indara, who is played by the brilliant Carrie-Anne Moss. Mm-hmm. There's a shot of her and May doing their duel thing. She's got her lightsaber out.
May has her knives.
She's throwing them and shit, and she's like, fuck you. Like, I was in the Matrix, bitch. This is nothing. And just fucking deflects them and stuff. So there's a shot of Saul and Yord Fandar, who is like the guy with the locks. When I looked at it, it appeared to me like they were investigating a crashed ship. Because there's some stuff fucked up with it, and it looked like the interior of a ship. And the line, Jedi are being hunted, which I think is from Yord. Yeah, Yord. So Yord says that the Jedi are being hunted. And then, so the thing at the end, I think, got everyone's attention. But the thing that also caught my attention, one of the many things, was that there's a shot of May approaching a Jedi who's meditating. But when I went through frame by frame, I realized that he's doing the Luke Skywalker, The Last Jedi thing, where he's floating. He's floating.
Just chilling.
Yeah. And
which, I mean, honestly, if you could float, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Like all the time?
Yeah, because wouldn't it be better than not floating?
Yeah.
You think? Yeah.
Just, you know, sitting there playing games, cross-legged, floating in the air.
And so he's sitting there meditating, fucking hands in his lap, eyes closed. And it appears that she tries to attack him, but isn't physically able to, which is kind of badass. Yeah. I will also mention that throughout the trailer, there's a lot of like hand-to-hand combat shit. And I'm also here for that too, because I think that's pretty neat. We see a broken lightsaber that's like half buried in whatever planet has the red ground. Mm-hmm. Like it's on that planet. We get some exposition about May and how the Jedi like found her in a coven of witches, which is led by the character Mother Anastasia. And there's one of the new shots in the trailer is Saul giving little baby May a lightsaber, which I feel is a little irresponsible.
The Jedi have always been irresponsible. Look, like, let's be real.
Well, Luke Skywalker was like, what, 17 or 18 in A New Hope. Ben Kenobi hands him the lightsaber. It's the first thing he did.
He immediately turns it on, starts swinging it around.
Before he turned it on, thank fucking Christ, he looked into it. Right? He's like, what the fuck is this thing? Why would you give that to us like a I don't know, like 4-year-old or something?
Why would you put fucking 12-year-old Ahsoka into Warzone?
Yeah, that's one of the many problems. And then Saul with a voiceover saying, she was my student, I trained her, let me be the one to bring her in. And then there's a shot from a sequence presumably where he's attempting to arrest her, right? And they have a big fight. There's a lot of hand-to-hand shit. We get a shot of what I think is a Jedi ship. It arrives at a planet and detaches from like a hyperspace ring, which is like a clear like shout out to like episode 2. So it's probably a Jedi, right? And then Vernestra Rowe says, I sense this is only a small part of a larger plan, some sort of shift to tip the scales, which for me channels Mace Windu from episode 3, where he's like, I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi. Yeah.
Which is just, God, fuck you, George Lucas.
Yeah. Okay. This next character, we're we're going to watch this show, and by the end, I will not have learned this character's name.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll still be calling him Tommen because he's played by the actor in Game of Thrones that plays Tommen.
Mm-hmm.
The second actor that plays Tommen, played by Dean Charles Chapman, who's like hanging out with that witch coven. And then his eyes just go black and he collapses to his knees.
Oh.
And it's like,
you good, bro?
Yeah, he's like some kind of possession bullshit happening. There's a shot of May approaching a figure standing on like a shale outcropping, looking over the ocean. And I am almost positive this is Octo from The Last Jedi.
It does look like
it. Looks a lot like Skellig Michael, which is the real location where they shot those scenes. And it looks a ton like that. Do
you think they actually went back out to Skellig Michael, or is that the volume?
They didn't use the volume apparently for any of this.
Oh.
According to the showrunners, they didn't use the volume at all, which also is another indication to me that they were taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the big things that really turned me off about some of the stuff in The Mandalorian and like Obi-Wan Kenobi was that like the volume is when used well,
it's incredible technology. It's really cool for certain things.
Yeah. Not for everything.
Yes. Like if you're shooting big, expansive, wide open spaces, the volume's not for that.
Yeah. And I get like they, for some of that shit they had to do because of COVID and everything.
Yeah.
So there's a high speed space pursuit, I think. It's probably between Saul and May. He's probably chasing her to wherever he like has a fight with her. And it looks like they're flying through a planetary ring. But cool. It's this really cool shot where like there are like two layers of like rocks and
ice and
shit.
Shit.
And they're like flying between them, and it was like it's just a really like the shot is really well composed. It's a really neat visual. So there's a shot of a complex that's built into a mountain face exploding, like it blows up, and I'm not sure if this is like another Jedi temple because there are Jedi temples in a lot of different places, or like Jedi outposts. So like the guy meditating, maybe he was like the guy hanging out at this outpost.
Maybe.
There's a shot of May running through a burning forest, and she says, "It's time to face the past." And we see this little dude leading a string of 9 Jedi down like a path. And I'm not sure what it's either a child or just a small alien. I looked at it and I was like, that's actually kind of funny.
Maybe it's an Ugnaught Jedi.
Maybe. That'd be weird.
A little bit.
Yeah. Indara, Carrie-Anne Moss's character, has a moment where she seems to sense something and looks like real shocked or disturbed. And then Mother Anastasia has a quote that is, destiny is not decided for you by an anonymous force. If you want to pull the thread and change everything, then pull it. And I imagine maybe this is something that she says to May before she leaves with the Jedi.
Does seem like something that would be said to May. I'm not sure where exactly in time, but
there are more shots of fights, lots of lightsabers. There's a really cool shot of Saul with like in a fucking deep stance with his lightsaber, like about to go to town on someone. And then at the end, the thing that everyone's freaking out about is that they're like, it just cuts and there's this like shadow just standing in the weeds, like in the fucking brush, just standing there staring at the like the 9 Jedi or whatever. And he draws a red lightsaber. And Saul's character said, "What are you?" And then there's a close up of him like turning his head. And he's got this gnarly fucking helmet with like ornamental teeth or something that looks like an open mouth or something. And he takes a big swing, right? And that's the end of the fucking trailer. And so these are my following questions.
Okay.
These are just, as I was watching this, just things I just kind of thought of. I would really like to know more about... By the way, obviously some of these things will be answered when we watch the show. These are just questions that came to my mind, right? First of all, who is Kamir? The guy that's played by the Good Place guy. I looked on the StarWars.com because they have little profile tidbits for
little blurbs. Yeah.
His is former smuggler who now makes his living as a trader, procuring unusual things and enjoying a life of leisure. And this like unusual things thing caught my attention because
that's gotta refer to like Force artifacts and shit, right?
Or maybe that's what he ended up finding. Like maybe like, you know, he ordinarily it's like weird pots and shit, and then like one day someone comes through with a fucking holocron or something, and he's like, what the fuck's this? So I'd be interesting to know what he discovers, and this whole piece is a lie thing has to be a call out to that. And it would be interesting to know if he was like a Sith sympathizer. Like maybe he learned some shit about the Sith that no one's supposed to know because the Jedi have like long buried this shit, but like something is unearthed and he reads a little bit about it and is like, oh, these guys might actually be, I mean, maybe he's like really into Ayn Rand or something.
Like hearing about who he is and what he does just puts a connection to Luthen in my head, but I don't know that there's anything there necessarily. Just like the sort of deals in artifacts, knows more about things than he probably should.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. So how much of the trailer is misdirection? Is it
a lot of it?
Yeah. Like is May actually bad? So if she is, it's entirely maybe she's being used by the Sith as a tool. Kind of like Ochi of Bastoon.
Ochi of Bastoon!
Don't you fucking leave me hanging like that. We're also meant to believe, I think, that Mother Anastasia is a bad guy and these witches are bad guys, but like it could be entirely possible that they're not. Yeah. That they're just trying to live their lives. And maybe they show up and they end up like helping the Jedi.
Be the Wizard of Oz. Are you a good witch or a bad witch?
Right. The biggest question is who is the shadow guy, right? A couple of options. He could just be a full-blown Sith. Yeah. Which would be incredible.
It could be Darth Plagueis.
They would have to change his... I think they would have to change his species. Because not canonically.
I don't think that's ever stopped him before.
That's true. So in Legends, Darth Plagueis is...
He's immune.
And he's got a tall fucking head, right?
Maybe it's Plagueis' master. Who knows?
Well, Plagueis' master was a Biff, who also
maybe they changed his species.
Well, because they have really distinct head shapes too, right? I mean, it could be entirely that Tenebrous had another apprentice, that just fucking died, right? And then he's like, I guess,
well, shit, right. Plagueis, you're up.
I think we did the math on this. Plagueis would be 15. If everything we know about him from Legends is true, about like when he was born and shit, he'd be about 15 years old. So,
which again, that's Legends. It's subject to change.
Right. Or is this like another dark Force user, a la like the Knights of Ren? Because his helmet is a little Knights of Ren looking,
a little bit.
But I think fans would be generally displeased with this. I think we were like. Star Wars has been so careful about, at least in live action, not really getting into the Sith thing. And I think all of us would really just prefer that they did. Because it's a really interesting thing and it'd be cool to learn more about, right?
It's the same way they've been extremely careful with not going past Rise of Skywalker in the timeline.
Yeah. That's going to change.
But there's certain things that it feels like there's a mandate from on high that Lucasfilm is not to go near these things. Yeah. Either because they don't, like the story group hasn't decided what they are, or they just don't want to go there.
Right.
Like they have very specific plans for those and they don't want anyone else bucking them up.
This quote from Vernestra Rowe about sensing, she basically says what Mace Windu says, which is someone's trying to kill us and like this is real bad, right? I would be really interested to know what she has discovered that no one else knows. And this kind of leads me to the next thing, because this is the one thing that detractors of this whole thing bring up, and I don't think they realize how stupid they're being. If it's a Sith, doesn't that wreck canon? Because
not if everyone who knows that it's a Sith is dead.
In episode 1, Ki-Adi-Mundi.
We haven't heard of them for 1,000 years.
Right. So, look.
Again, the Lucas Story Group are bigger nerds than you will ever be about this shit. They would have proofread every single character of every single one of those scripts. They would make sure that it's not going to wreck canon here.
The Sith being presumed extinct, they were obviously wrong.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. So when you say, oh, well, that'll wreck it, it's like they weren't actually extinct.
Yeah.
Like they were out doing shit, right? And there's a really great Legends book that I remember reading in high school called Darth Maul Shadowhunter. And I'm drawing some parallels to Star Wars Acolyte with this. Mm-hmm. In fact, a lot of it feels similar, where a Jedi goes to the underworld of Coruscant to investigate a crime, and I shit you not, Chris, discovers the whole plot of episode 1. The fucking invasion of Naboo, the Sith, everything. And then they're like, we got to go.
Shit, we got to go fucking alert the Jedi.
I got to go to the Jedi Temple. And then Sidious being like, Maul, you need to shut this shit down right now.
Maul's like, sir, yes, sir.
And he kills every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
All the main characters of this book die. And it's scary. And it's like when all the good guys die at the end, it's mm-hmm. When it feels
it's kind of down.
Yeah. But like, you can't be like, oh, well, Ki-Adi-Mundi said that the Sith were extinct, so how could this happen?
Unreliable narrators.
Yeah, but also, like, everyone who knew about it could have just died before they could tell anyone.
Yeah.
Or this next thing, which is maybe a couple people survived. They get to the Jedi Temple, they run into the fucking Jedi Council chamber, they're like, dude, the Sith are back. And having the Jedi be, I don't think so.
Were they really?
We know everything there is to know about the Sith.
Yeah.
They're gone. What you must have been mistaken.
Yeah.
And having whoever the Sith is, presumably Tenebrous at the time, being like, fucking idiots. Yeah. Of course this is what
yeah.
Why were we even worried about this? Like, why wouldn't I expected the Jedi just to be like, we don't.
Power has made them blind.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Because, I mean, that would really tell the story that ends up happening to the Jedi anyway, which is like, this is the start of an era where the Jedi just start to decay. And by the end, they're so blinded by their hubris and by everything else happening around them and their self-importance to own the Force and to be the arbiters of peace in the galaxy and shit, that they just couldn't see what was right. And someone literally told them the Sith were there. And they were just like, nah, it's impossible. See ya. And I will also note the I will note the irony of all these guys are like, oh, this is going to wreck canon because Ki-Adi-Mundi said that the Sith were extinct. It's like, you understand that Qui-Gon fought the Sith.
And they still thought the Sith were extinct.
Yeah. So like, it's a stupid argument. It's a stupid ass argument that bad faith actors, there's not a lot for them to grapple onto about this. Mm-hmm. It's either this or a tenuous, at best, at worst, absolutely non-existent link between Harvey Weinstein and
what's her name?
Yeah. Leslie Headland.
There you go.
Right? Like that's the only thing that's the only thing that they can like.
That's all the haterade they got.
Right. So,
because I mean, they've pretty much found out that racism and sexism have a very limited appeal.
Right. Right. And of course, all of them are pointing out that one of the characters is trans. So of course, and like they're, like 100% of the cast aren't white males, which is a crime against God, I guess. So like, I don't know, you keep complaining about stupid shit and you know what's going to happen is we're just going to enjoy it anyway. Yeah. It's going to be that meme. The guy walks in, everyone's enjoying a thing and he's like, stop it. Don't you know that that's blah, blah, blah. And they just ignore him and they keep watching. He's like, stop having fun. That's what you guys are.
Yeah, pretty much.
The last 10 minutes.
All right.
Let's talk about, actually.
The other thing that happened May 4th.
Let me read some of these comments real quick. Chris says, may the Force be with you, Daniel and Chris. I hope you're having a good night. I enjoyed Tales of the Empire. I know people had complaints about Barriss, but I liked her character arc. why is it that Star Wars theory, this sentence is not structured?
I'm just going to stop you right there. I don't know what Star Wars theory did or said. I don't really care. Fuck him.
Yeah. Oh, why is it? I think he meant that Star Wars theory has been copyright striked.
Probably because he used Disney's shit without permission.
Yeah, I think he meant why hasn't it been the fact that Star Wars theory has been copyright striked for his second fan film based on the Star Wars Empire comics? That's a PR thing. I think that if Disney is like as long as YouTube demonetizes it and he can't make money off of it, it doesn't hurt Star Wars a whole bunch. It doesn't really hurt Disney a whole bunch.
Yeah.
I think the thing that they're really worried, because remember, Disney, like they don't care about Star Wars. They
care about money.
They care about the money, right? And as long as there isn't someone out there making money off of it, they're probably like, what the fuck ever.
As long as it's clearly labeled, this is a fan film, it's not canon.
Yeah.
They probably care less about that, except in as much as it matters to the lawyers.
Yeah. They're probably just like, just let the little man go and make his shitty Star Wars movies. Who the fuck cares? I mean, Star Wars theory made a Dark Empire fan film, and he didn't credit the original comic book creators. That doesn't surprise me.
Shitty of them.
Yeah. But also not surprising.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's do real quick.
Tales of the Empire, which is mislabeled. It should have been Tales of the Dark Side.
Yeah. Okay. So I liked this.
Mm-hmm.
I did not like it as much as Tales of the Jedi.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what I expected from it. Right. I didn't hate it.
No.
It was fine. It was entertaining. I enjoyed the stories. I didn't get the same feeling that I did from, because like there was the Yaddle fight.
Yeah, that was,
and young Qui-Gon.
It's hard to directly compare them.
Yeah,
because the thing is, like Tales of the Jedi was like what 6, I think, different vignettes of completely different, disconnected stories.
Well, not entirely.
Well, largely,
because on the like one part of it was the story of Count Dooku, right, and the other was Ahsoka.
Okay,
I think it was more. I don't know.
So like. In Tales of the Empire's case, like I really liked episode 1. I thought 2 and 3 were kind of meh. I loved the Barriss episodes.
Episode 1 was General Grievous.
Yes.
And
Morgan
Elsbeth.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Which, by the way, my other major thought about this, having this come out after Ahsoka is kind of like Marvel releasing Black Widow after Avengers.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Did we really need to know this character's backstory now?
Right. It's like
after she's already dead.
Yeah, like we know how this story ends. Yeah. I think one of the things I was a little miffed about, and again, I wasn't storming out.
Yeah,
it was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah. I think I expected to see more Thrawn in the Morgan Elsbeth part, and he's in one scene for like 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just fucks off.
Yeah.
He's very good at doing the Batman thing, where like there's nothing there. The character turns around, and then there's Thrawn.
Yeah.
And then they turn around to think, and they go to talk to him, and then he's just gone. Right.
In their defense, they had 6 15-minute episodes.
Yeah, right.
They had zero time to waste on anything.
Which, by the way, I normally bitch about shorter format episodes, but for this works for this kind of storytelling, I think, and it worked for Tales of the Jedi as well.
Yeah. Like when you're very directly, very thinly focused or very tightly focused on one specific story. Yeah. With like 2 scenes, it works.
Yeah. I thought General Grievous was a lot more terrifying in Tales of the Empire than he was literally anywhere else, except for the 2D.
Yeah.
Because he's terrifying in that. I also noticed that the battle droids didn't say anything. They didn't have any little quips.
And it made them spooky and effective.
And they were scary. Yeah. So I really liked that. And Morgan Elsbeth, that pair of like scythes that she had, I was like, first of all, an entirely non-practical weapon.
Of course.
But looks cool as fuck. Yeah. Right. And they got the runes on it and they glow green and shit.
The one thing that they didn't go into in the Morgan Elsbeth story that I kind of wish they did is where she got the Beskar spear.
Oh,
Because like she just kind of had it.
She just had it. Yeah, it just kind of shows up. Yeah. I guess it doesn't matter.
It doesn't, but it would have been nice to see. I think.
It is interesting to know that she kind of like inserts herself as the leader of this place and then just fucks it over.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like the appearance from Rook, Thrawn's Nogri bodyguard.
Oh yeah.
Who's from the original story, the original trilogy, or the original Timothy Zahn story. So that was kind of cool because I like he's kind of a fan favorite from the and so that was cool. And having a couple of appearances from Captain Paleon was neat, who is also an original trilogy character who we didn't see officially until that episode of The Mandalorian when they have their evil guys hologram meeting.
Yep.
And it was a big deal when it happened because it was like, oh, it's Captain Paleon. That's fucking. Yeah. This might have offended canon a little bit because from what I've read from the Thrawn, but like the new canon books, I'm not sure he knew Paleon yet. There was another guy he was doing stuff with. Okay. That sounded really gross. Not like that. that might have been more. Oh,
come on, Daniel. Blue people have sex too.
Yeah. So like. But I don't know. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, how could they do this? And so the Barasafi story I did enjoy more.
Yeah.
I think people were expecting to see a little bit more Vader.
I honestly, I feel like they kind of skimmed over the whole you're an Inquisitor now, like training arc.
Yeah.
Like they could have, I could have lived with an entire season of just that.
Yeah.
Of like Evil Academy.
Yeah. That would be actually really cool.
Yeah.
So the character that she interacts with,
Lynn,
was a non-binary character that used they them pronouns. So as you can imagine,
everyone
there was
the worst people on Earth were pissed.
Yeah, there was very very little bitty people, small little voices outraged about it, and it was easy to get over.
I really liked their good cop bad cop routine in episode 5.
She kills that whole fucking
Lynn walks in and is like, you're gonna tell me where that fucking Jedi is, and Barriss finds this one kid, is like, hey, you want to tell me where the Jedi is?
Here's a sucker.
Have some candy. I'll take off my helmet so you can see my face. He's like, yeah, the Jedi's up there. She's like, oh great, thank you. Hey Lynn, let's go. Lynn's like, I'm gonna kill you all. Barriss is like, can you chill? Lynn's like, I will not chill.
No chill. She killed that whole fucking like group of people too. And there was a good lesson to be learned at the end of that little arc. And it looks like Barriss might have survived a lot longer than we originally thought and might still be alive.
I think she's dead.
Really?
I mean, she got stabbed.
Well, I mean, a lot of people get stabbed nowadays.
She got stabbed. She had a dramatic little last breath sequence.
I think she just lost consciousness.
I think she's dead.
I don't know, like Reva got stabbed.
Reva was like staggering around afterwards.
Sabine got stabbed.
That was a really...
The Grand Inquisitor got stabbed.
Like that was a really obvious, I am dying now. Like while Lynn was cradling her, like she was like, I forgive you. And I'm just saying there's context there that makes me think she's dead.
I don't know. After I've seen so many people now stabbed and lived, maybe it just hit her second stomach or something.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was a nice little redemption arc for Lynn. And I like how she just ends up being a weird guru in the middle of the ice.
I love the parallelism of when Barriss was being trained by the Grand Inquisitor, like he was just kind of dodging around her. And then when Lynn comes to fight her, she does the same thing.
Right. But it's from a completely different place.
Yeah.
It was from I don't need to fight you.
Yeah.
And the Grand Inquisitor was like, I'm going to show you some sick fucking moves.
It's another one of those things where like it's ironic that at the end of her life, maybe Barriss becomes more Jedi than the Jedi.
Yeah. Which if it weren't for all the wanton murder and destruction, might have been true anyway.
Yeah. I mean, if she wasn't a terrorist.
But then she did terrorism, and then it kind of just like
she kind of did a 9/11.
Yeah. So like there is that whole thing. Okay. That is the end of our show. Real quick. Bucky says, hello, Masters. Has the Force kicked you in the ass yet?
Not that I've noticed.
I just thought of this really weird circumstance where one could own a dildo called the Force. and how that entire question could take on a different meaning. I'll let you worry about that at home. I'll let you just I'll let you stew with that. Right after this, just in a couple of minutes, Chris and I are doing the next installment in Buzzed Recap, which will be Game of Thrones episode 3. We're gonna pour a couple drinks. Yeah, season 3. Yeah,
we will have our Kool-Aid. Wink.
Yeah, we'll pour some drinks. We'll get a little happy, and then I'll tell you what's happening in Westeros. So
where everybody is dying apparently.
Yeah. So join us for that. We would love to have you. Thanks for the comments and for joining us. We will see you next week for the next episode of Jedi Enclave Presents. Now, this is Podcasting Podcast. Good night.
Bye.